What's up? What's up, guys? Cassandra Carson here from Paralandra and the Life Project, and you're listening to the Weekly Pour podcast.
Hola, amigos. This is Billy Sheehan. You're listening to me right here and watching on the Weekly Pour podcast.
Hey, this is Frank Fletcher. You're listening to the Weekly Pour podcast with TBT and Ace.
Hey guys, this is John Karabi from, just about every band but APA, and you are listening to the Weekly Pour. Turn it up.
I'm Logan, right?
Yes.
That's how All right, I'll go now. What's up, everybody? It's Logan from All the Pretty Things, and you're listening to TBT and Ace on the Weekly Pour podcast.
Hey guys, it's Leather Leone, and you're listening to the Weekly Pour. Great metalheads, crazy music, because we all bleed metal. Ciao.
My name's Reggie, and you are listening to the Weekly Pour podcast. Thanks so much for joining the most amazing twosome out there.
Welcome to the Weekly Pour podcast. Here are your hosts, TBT and Ace.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Weekly Pour podcast. This is episode 60. Of course, I am TBT. The guy to your far right, of course, is Ace. And joining us tonight is Mr. Marc Mero. Now, Marc Mero's compelling personal story of tragedy and triumph, punctuated with relevant success takeaways, offers a powerful corporate presentation that will inspire any audience. From his early days growing up in a single-parent home in Buffalo, New York, Marc dreamed big and set lofty goals. Despite many obstacles, Marc found success with hockey, football, and boxing, and then achieved fame as a WCW and WWE wrestling champion. For 14 years, Marc entertained audiences worldwide as Johnny B. Bad, Wildman Marc Mero, and Marvelous Marc Mero. Now an inspirational speaker, Marc's inspirational videos have been seen by millions, and his influence both online and on stage is worldwide. He's a bad man. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our distinct honor and privilege to welcome Marc Mero. Woo, welcome, Marc.
Wow, I don't think you guys missed a thing on that introduction.
Well, we try not to. That's like the most positive thing we've got so far.
He worked all day.
I did.
I got my work cut out tonight. Okay.
Well, welcome. First and foremost, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. This is a live one, by the way. We've got our chat going on our YouTube channel. We've got some people in that are watching and commenting in. So if we get any questions, we'll let you know. But
Awesome.
Welcome. I'm personally kind of starstruck here because I have watched you for as long as I can remember being into professional wrestling back in the day. Following your career as you were in WCW and then the WWF at the time, from being a baby face to turning heel, it was just all awesome. And to hear what you're doing now, which we'll get into here shortly, is just absolutely inspirational. And I applaud you for everything you've done over your career.
Well, thank you. It was a fun career, different chapters of my life that I really enjoyed. Took a lot of learning experiences from them that hopefully have helped other people along the way.
Well, I know we've got you for basically just a short time, which we understand completely. I want to jump into this. I want to touch on a little bit of your wrestling career. And I know Ace has got some questions as well. But you started, I want to say, in 1991. Is that correct?
Yes, 1991. I went to wrestling school. Boris Malenko, that was Joe and Dean's dad. I went to his school in Tampa, Florida in 1990, and was very lucky to sign very early in my career. So I didn't have to do a lot of independence, but I got thrown right into the fire, so to speak, with WCW.
Right. I saw something somewhere. It said you were trained at the power plant, but
when I went to
everything else-
WC, no, once I was already signed with WCW, when I would go down the power plant, like Diamond Dallas Page were my closest friends. Him and I would go down and work out together and learn. I was so green at the time. They put me with guys when I first started, like Ricky Morton, Arn Anderson, Steve Regal, guys that traveled with me that helped me along the way that I'd wrestle every night and learn from. Because as Arn Anderson would say, I didn't know the difference between a wrist lock and a wrist watch. So.
Right. And that's a classic phrase right there from a wrestler.
And those are people that would be great to learn from. Not only the Malenkos, but Arn Anderson, someone like that, Ricky Morton, who was a tag team guy forever. But those guys know so much. I'm sure you soaked it up like a sponge back then.
Man, I tell you, those guys were so patient with me. They helped me, and I learned very quickly. I mean, I was voted Rookie of the Year my first year in wrestling, and then I believe 1 or 2 years later, I was Most Improved Wrestler. So I really learned it. I really wanted to perfect my craft, and watched a lot of matches, and just got better and better.
Do you attribute the fact that you were able to soak all this in just because of your athletic ability and your brain was just so in tune with athletics, from boxing and all that? Did that help you as you were making that transition into professional wrestling?
Well, I was an all-star in football and hockey, and of course, I was very successful in boxing, winning the New York State Golden Gloves and becoming a member of the U.S. boxing team. And I remember I went through a really dark period of my life, 10 years of my life of drug addiction. And I had a bunch of friends over at my apartment, and one of my buddies was flipping through the TV channels. Now I'm 30 years old at this time, and he landed on professional wrestling. I go, whoa, 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 stop it there. Let me see this. As we're watching television, I said to my buddies, I go, guys, I can do that. And they all busted out laughing. And that gave me the desire to find out where there was a wrestling school. And there was a couple guys at the gym I was working out at that would go down to Malenko's. They were some guys that were enhancement wrestlers. And they got me started. And the rest is history.
I was waiting for you to jump in.
I'm sorry. I had something distracting me, but no, I was just thinking, the transition from boxing to wrestling, was it just that easy that you saw something you knew you wanted to do or wanted to try, and you said, well, heck, I'm going to try it. Were you already smart to the business at that point?
No, I mean, I really didn't know much about the business at that point. I was very green, and it wasn't so much boxing going into wrestling. It was just my athletic background. I mean, being in sports my whole life since I was a little kid. You just know the work ethic that's involved in getting good at anything, whether it's wrestling or football, hockey, boxing, or whatever sport I was into. I really wanted to excel at it, and of course, wrestling was no different. And it was an amazing run. I mean, I had a good run with WCW and WWE, and then I went on to TNA for a little bit, and Hulk Hogan started something called the XWF for a little while, and then I came back for one more match in I believe it was 2006, and that was my last time wrestling.
Do you miss it?
You know what? I gotta tell you, I'm so fulfilled in what I do now. I do about 230 events a year around the country. This year we're going to the UK, Ireland. We're going to Puerto Rico. I went to Guatemala right before the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And you still get to go out there and entertain people, but hey guys, nobody's hit me over the head with a chair anymore. So my longevity is much better as a speaker than a wrestler.
Absolutely. Now, talking about some of your accomplishments while you were in professional wrestling, you won the WCW World Television title. You won the WCW United States title. And then upon your transition into WWF at the time, you also picked up that Intercontinental title.
Well, let me correct you though. I never won the United States title. That was held by Steve Austin. He cheated every time. Okay,
That's
I want
right.
to make that clear. Okay, I should have won, but he cheated.
Agreed. That was my fault. Yeah,
he
yeah.
was he was actually one of my favorites to work with. We wrestled each other. My gosh, it must have been a couple hundred times being in both companies together and being on tour together for so many years. So he was definitely one of my favorites to wrestle, along with guys like Flying Brian, Diamond Dallas Page. Gosh, the list goes on. Arn Anderson. Ric Flair even there was a night off. When you saw your name against someone like that on the board before you go in to the arena, you knew you had a night off.
Sure, and it was the same with Triple H when you guys were both in the same company, because he was also in WCW.
And I don't want to forget about him, because I really learned a lot from Triple H and Steve Regal. I mean, just two guys that were just so good in the ring. I mean, it was really like having a night off. I mean, like when I mean that, it's like it's a learning experience, and then I just really excelled working with those guys.
Right, and the talent roster that you just listed that you're involved in, I mean, there's it's either potential Hall of Famers all over that list or in the Hall of Fame. I mean,
Yeah,
that's something right there.
it
What?
really was. I was honored to wrestle some of the greatest names. Being there in the Attitude Era, wrestling some of the greatest names in the history of wrestling that I got to work with in the ring, whether a tag team partner or wrestled against.
One of the other names that we've not mentioned that I think is very important to bring up is Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
Um,
I got to tell you, man, if I would not be on this podcast if it wasn't for Dusty Rhodes, my whole life changed. It was someone that saw me that says, and I'll never forget it because I was one of the enhancement guys and we were wrestling. I believe it was against Doom, the World Tag Team Champions. Me and another guy were wrestling Doom. And I remember I screwed up the match or something. I got out of the ring too quick. And there was just a real mayhem after, arguments and stuff. And then they said, Dusty needs to see you. And I thought, I'm never coming back,
uh-oh.
Yeah, this is it, man. And as soon as he says, hey, kid, I go, Dusty, I am really sorry. I didn't know I was blah, blah, blah. And he goes, no, I don't care about that. He goes, kid, anybody ever tell you you look like Little Richard? And I thought he was talking about a wrestler. So I said, I don't know who Little Richard is. He goes, you don't know Little Richard? I go, oh, the singer. And I said, I never heard that before. But he goes, I think I got a gimmick for you, and changed my whole life, man.
Well,
But I got to tell you guys, one of the most entertaining and fun things that ever happened to me in wrestling, that as I look back on my career, was all the times I got to spend one-on-one with Dusty Rhodes before the matches, as he's teaching me how to walk and talk and act like this character, Johnny B. Bad. Because, he was very flamboyant. So it was kind of an extension of his character. I'm so pretty. Oh, hush, I'm so outrageous. It's contagious. I don't sit down. I get down. I'm a bad man.
there it
That's
is.
all from hanging out with that guy and learning from him and watching him do it. And I remember we get laughing so hard. He goes, now do it like that. He goes, I'll never forget that one of the first times I was introduced as Johnny B. Bad. And I remember here I am, a multi-time New York State boxing champion. My dad has all his friends over for the pay-per-view, and they see me walking out with this, pink feather boa, lipstick, makeup on, and everything. And Dusty had me go up to the microphone and go, I'm so pretty, I should have been born a little girl. I was like, oh my gosh. But you know what? They're just memories that I cherish. And oh my gosh, what that guy has brought to the world of professional wrestling, there'll never be another Dusty Rhodes.
Right,
Absolutely.
right, and you're not the first person to say those types of things because even up until right before he passed, with a lot of with the current women's roster, he worked with a lot of those women and shaped them down in NXT. I believe so, if I'm correct, and just a lot of young wrestlers. No one says a bad word about Dusty.
Yeah, man, he's a beloved guy that we're all going to miss for a long, long time.
Absolutely. Now, you've mentioned Little Richard, and you can correct me if this is not a true thing, but I've heard that Little Richard said that you weren't as pretty as him, but according to his driver, he absolutely loved the character.
I did a YouTube live last night. I actually showed a picture of him holding a poster of me, and he'd tear it up and say he's not as pretty as me. And I actually recently met his driver, a guy by the name of Santini, and he told me how much, because I always wondered if he enjoyed the character, and he told me he loved it, and that just really made me happy to know that he enjoyed the character, and um, imitation is the best form of flattery. So I'm glad he liked it.
Absolutely. We've got one of our people in the chat. Wes in our chat has a question. He wanted to know, how long did you run the Marc Mero Body Slam Training Institute?
Well, that was a facility. That wasn't a wrestling facility. It was a high intensity workout facility. And I had that for, my gosh, around 6 or 7 years. And then, getting into speaking, I could not do both. So it's still, it's under a different name now, but it's still there. The same company or the same building and everything's still there. And they do a great job there. I trained there after I got rid of it to them. And it was I trained there for many years after until I moved to Georgia. But I couldn't do both. It was just too much.
Oh, I'm sure.
You everything I've watched recently, and has talked about how nice of a guy you are, and you are a nice guy, and your Christianity. Um, but wrestling is not always a nice place for people that are nice. So, how did you cope with being a nice guy in the wrestling business, especially in the Attitude era?
There was a lot of difficulties with that. I made a lot of mistakes and wasn't always um, wasn't always doing the right thing. I want, and it's part of my testimony now. It's you learn, you learn from your mistakes in life, and you can help others that are going through similar things, whether it's addiction or depression, anxiety, being bullied or abused in life. You can always help somebody else by your own personal experiences that you've gone through. And that's what I hope to do now. But yeah, there was, I look back on, I got no ill feelings towards anybody, total forgiveness towards anyone that hurt me. And I ask for forgiveness for anyone I may have hurt or said a cross word against. I really try to build people up and it's so cool. Like when I go to these wrestling conventions, guys that maybe I didn't get along with back then, or we had words or whatever, man, it's like big hugs. Just, there's no more animosity. Nobody, like we did something together that most people will never do.
Right.
And it's like there's a camaraderie, kind of an unwritten thing that we have that is just really special. And when you hold grudges or bitterness or resentment, you take away that specialness of that camaraderie.
Yeah, and that same thing can be said, in a lot of different jobs, from law enforcement and firefighting and military. It's a lot of the same thing. You mentioned earlier about Diamond Dallas Page, and I know a lot of people know about the positivity that he's done with his yoga stuff and Jake the Snake, and to hear you say that you're still good friends with him, um, that's always good to hear because that is that camaraderie.
I got to do DDPY with him tomorrow, so
Good luck. Hydrate.
yeah, he's got these new cups that he's using now that they're promoting, and he wants me to do a workout with him. So I'm looking forward to hanging out with DDP. We always have fun together. My gosh, we've done so much. We've wrestled each other so many. I mean, there's three guys that I would say maybe, and I could throw one more guy. Three guys for sure that I wrestled probably hundreds of times was Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, DDP, and I'm going to throw Steve Regal in there too. We wrestled each other quite a bit too.
Nice.
Well,
So let's move on from the wrestling a little bit because I'm really enthralled with what you've got going on now. What can you tell us about Champion of Choices? I'm going to let you lead into that, and then we've got a plethora of questions regarding this.
Cool. This is my 17th year, starting my 17th year speaking. It's crazy. It's funny because when I retired from wrestling, I remember the first time I retired, I was we did a pay-per-view in England. I remember being on that plane thinking I never got to do this again, no more traveling. At that time I thought I got plenty of money, I'm gonna just enjoy my life. And wrestling, you're doing 240, 250 events a year, cities a year, whatever. And now I'm back 17 years of doing 230 again. So I've been living out of a hotel for so long, man. I am the best. I can pack a suitcase that you can just wheel on the plane. I've never had to put a bag under the plane, no matter how long I stayed somewhere. So I am really efficient, I guess you'd say. But there's no greater joy than what I do now. It's like I found my calling in life. And, they say when you found your passion, you never have to work. And I love going to inspire others. I love going to these schools and churches and corporations all over the world and just hopefully making a difference. And we get hundreds of messages every day through their social media platforms on people that say it changed or even saved their life from the presentation. So I hope to do it as long as possible. I I'm still enjoying it, and as long as the students are still getting something out of it. And what's so cool about social media is so many kids. I mean, these kids weren't even born when I wrestled, They know me from the social media because so many of my videos have gone viral. It's like when I walk on stage, I go, "Oh my God, that's that guy!" So it's pretty cool.
How do you
Yeah.
approach the difference between a school, if you're given those, those speeches, if you will, versus a corporation where you're speaking mostly to adults who I would assume would be more, familiar with who you are and who you played before. How do you approach those differently?
Well, my story is my story. It's just told in a different way. But I also talk to adults about so many times we become complacent in life. One day becomes the next. And many of us, as we get older, we settle for the status quo and we say things, we look back on our life and say, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I could have done that. Or we say things like, those were the days where, man, I'm here to tell you, to the corporation or whoever I'm speaking in front of, these are the days. These are the days we learn from past mistakes. We grow in grace and knowledge. We can accomplish anything we set our minds to. I mean, if you want to write a book, you can self-publish it right on the internet. Every one of us has a story. You want to start a side business. There's millions of ways to start a side business. There's so much that we can do. You want to rekindle a relationship with someone you haven't spoken to in years. There's so many ways that you can make a difference in your life. But when we settle for the status quo and the days just become months and months become years, it's like you're just waiting to die. I tell you guys, when death finds me, it's going to find me living, man, because I'll never retire. I'll just refire. And that's the life I want to live. I want to be, I just turned 63. I feel like I'm in my 30s or 40s. My health is better than it's ever been as far as, all the injuries and surgeries I've had in wrestling. Even open heart surgery, having a new valve put in my heart. I would never even know there was I ever had anything wrong if there wasn't a scar on my chest. So it's a great chapters of my life. And guys, remember that the rest of your life has got to be the best of your life. Don't ever say those were the days, because the best days are still to come.
And it's so good that you're doing things in schools. You're going to these schools and making these speeches, because school is a lot different than I think when all three of us were in school. The pressures are different.
Guys, we never, I'm older than you guys, but still, you guys experienced some. We didn't have the internet when we were growing up. I didn't know anybody on medication. I didn't have a friend that was on Adderall or or something that was prescribed by a doctor. I didn't know anybody that wanted to kill themselves. I didn't know anybody cutting or self-harming. There was bullying and stuff. Kids pick on each other, but you go home and you don't hear from nobody. Nobody bothers you. But today it's a different world, man. In school, the thing I see in schools after doing this for 16 years is they have many great counselors at schools, counselors that are often asked to wear many different hats. But what we need is mental health specialists, people that understand what a kid could be going through on different drugs that they're prescribed, the depression, the anxiety, that a lot of adults that don't really understand that. It's like, just suck it up, or, they don't understand what the effect that these kids are having and what they're going through. And because I see it firsthand, I'm seeing a lot of changes, guys, especially with the transgender and gender confusion and kids that identify as animals. I've actually met these kids that identify as furries. A lot of kids wait in line to meet me after, and you get talking to these kids, and you get a real sense of what's happening to our country. I mean, guys, I really have my finger on the pulse of what's happening because I'm in the midst of it, without judging people. I'm not here to say, you're right or you're wrong, or anything like that. I'm here to, the greatest gift we have is love. That don't mean we can't get people into getting help, the help that they need to help them, just weave their way through some of these things that they're going through in life, because we got some really special kids. Like, the doom and gloom that kids hear today is terrible. But man, I meet some amazing kids that want to change the world, and that gives you hope, man. That makes you just go, wow, everything that I'm trying to do is helping. And then you meet a kid that you just go, wow, that's a future leader right there.
Right. My daughter, my oldest daughter, when she went to high school, I was shocked at the amount of people that she run into that were cutting. Like you said, I didn't know anyone that did anything like that. That are on a lot of meds, or they're depressed, or they're laying in their room for hours. You know, the mental health is so different, and I can't put my finger on why, but it's spreading into adults. I mean, the adult mental health problem is huge.
Guys, this smartphone right here has outsmarted us. I'm telling you, when you can't go anywhere without seeing everybody sitting, walking. This phone is just taking over our lives, man. You even go to, like, I'll go to dinner. I'll see parents with their kids at dinner, and the kids got earbuds in, or they're on their phones or playing games, and we it's like we want to talk to other people, but we don't want to talk to people that love us the most, or spend time with people that love us the most. It's just an amazing dynamic that's happened to our country, and it's getting worse and worse, especially kids that aren't even getting a couple hours sleep a night because they're scrolling through TikTok or Instagram all night long watching videos and stuff.
All because
And
they're
they're
afraid they're going to miss something.
exactly, and then next thing you know, they got to get up for school, and they're not ready to learn. Their brains didn't get enough sleep that night. It's really hard because I share so much and talk with. We do community nights where a lot of the parents come out, and we do a question and answer. And when you hear parents that are talking about what they're going through with their kids, and trying to raise their kids the best they can, it's almost like the inmates have taken over the asylum. It's sad because there's there's no consequences for detrimental things that kids are doing sometimes. It's like back in our day. Today they got what, timeout. We didn't have timeout. We had knockout. It's a
Right.
different.
Right.
I'm not advocating violence, guys. I'm just saying it was a different time when we grew up.
Well, it's exactly like you said. When something happened, it was suck it up. It'll feel better when it quits hurting. I mean, I'll admit I've used that line before with my kids. It'll feel better when it quits hurting, because that's just the way it was. And like you mentioned a while ago, we didn't have the things in life now or then that we do now, like the phones. I mean, the video games and stuff were not even, you're 10 minutes and then you couldn't keep your dial up on because mom or dad needed to use the phone. So you got to turn your computer off. And I'm sure the kids are very receptive to your message. And do they, if you can pinpoint one, which may be difficult, what is probably what you would say would be the most inspirational response that you've had to your speeches?
I think my earbuds went out, guys, but you can still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Guys, I guess the most satisfying thing I receive is when a student tells you that they were going to end their life and the presentation helped them, and they now got into counseling or working with a mental health specialist because they finally opened up. I often talk about holding things inside in my presentations, and I was very guilty of this. Anything I went through, I would hold inside. I wouldn't share with people. And it becomes, when you hold stuff inside, especially if you're bullied, abused, or you're depressed or suffering from anxiety or whatever it would be, when you hold it inside, it's like a volcano. And sooner or later, that volcano erupts. And being around as long as I've been around, it usually erupts in negative behavior, whether it goes to full-blown depression or anxiety or hurting other people because of the pain that you're going through. Hurt people often hurt other people. And so I often get kids, I say, man, don't make the same mistake I made. Talk to someone, man. Open up. You're going to feel so much better when you talk to someone, a trusted adult, a counselor, a mental health specialist, someone who can help you, who understands what you're going through. And those are the letters I get that I'm really, I don't know, just blessed to know that they took my advice and their life has changed. And it's so cool now because doing this for so long, I get kids that now own their own business, professional athlete, record deal or something. They attribute it to the day that I came to their school was the day their life was changed. And how kids today would say, I wouldn't have my family if it wasn't for you coming. I wanted to end my life. So those are the things that we're so blessed to help so many kids with.
That's got to just absolutely be a phenomenal feeling for you, because what you're doing is inspirational is not even the word, because some people just don't take the time nowadays to stop, think, talk to kids, even adults, and what you're doing is just phenomenal.
Well, thank you guys.
Tell me about your motto, hope.
My what?
Your motto, HOPE, hope.
Well, it's an acronym for Hold On, Pain Ends. And if we can get especially kids that are going through a really, really tough time in their life where they just want to end it, I just said, man, if you get a kid to hold on for another minute, could last another hour, could last another day. And once you get kids to get past a certain point, they want to live. And I often think about, I share my story. There was a time in my life I just didn't want to be here anymore. I just put it bluntly, guys. I want to end it all. Every day I wake up, I look up, and I just thank God I didn't end my life. I never would have known, and I share this with kids because I want them to feel the same way. I never would have known all the great things that were ahead of me. New friends, new family that I never would have met, falling in love again, and having so much, and then making a difference in other people's lives because I could share them. We all have a story, and all I did was share my story that helped others. And that's why I said to kids, man, hang on. You have no idea how quickly it could change. And a lot of kids are just brokenhearted over a breakup with their boyfriend or girlfriend, something that we look back now and go, that's silly, But at that time, it's the most important thing in their life. They don't think anything else matters except that person. And I try to get through to them and do in many ways of share with them, how, through my losses. Loss of my little brother and sister died at 21. My mom died at 58. My dad died while I was holding him in my arms. Losing so many friends in the wrestling industry, other family members that have passed on, friends that passed on. I put up a video today of my friend that passed away 4 years ago. Today was one of my closest friends. And he was just one of the most special people in my life, at that time. And I just really miss him and miss all these people that have left my life, but you have to keep moving on. There's light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what you're going through. But you can also be a beacon in other people's darkness. You can be a light in other people's darkness. And I just pray I'd let his light shine through me in ways that help others.
Right, and I love the little inspirational videos you post on Instagram. There's 1 or 2 a day that I've started watching them, and I think to myself, there's someone out there that's really getting something from this. If not me, someone else that might need to see it sees it, and I like that.
Yeah. It's funny that you said that because every day I get someone that said, this is exactly what I'm going through. I needed to hear this today. And so I just try to use a lot of different things that I've gone through or something that has inspired me through all different aspects of life. And especially, getting your heart broken in life. We all get our heart broken and we break other people's hearts that we don't even realize that sometimes that we do. Especially our own parents. We broke their hearts many times,
Many times. Right. I watched your video of your Mother's Day story that is on YouTube. And my mother lives right down the road. And I see her about once a week, but I went the next day to see my mother because I saw that video.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And I get a lot of letters like that, or a lot of messages like that, on how someone that hasn't spoken to their mom or dad in a long time saw the video and they just broke down and cried or called them up and reconciled, So that's what it's all about. Life is about relationships, man. It doesn't matter. No one's ever going to care about what car you drove or what house you lived in. It's all about relationships, man. That's the most important thing, because all that stuff goes on to someone else or, rots or whatever, But relationships, man, that love lasts forever.
Exactly. Well, Mark, you're an inspiration to all of us. We can't say enough how much we appreciate what you continue to do, well beyond the wrestling business after that's finished, and what you're doing for adults and children alike. We want to thank you for coming on to the show today, and being able to share some of this positivity with us and our listeners, and everybody that's going to either watch this replay or listen to it, on their podcasts. We really thank you. We know we don't want to keep you too long, so we'll let you get out of here. But again, thank you so much. If we're gonna link all of your social media onto this platform here, and then once we post it elsewhere, we're gonna have it up there as well. And I'm gonna encourage everyone to go check out Mark everywhere on all of his social media. Thinkpause.org is the website. If you have an organization, you have a school or something like that that needs to have some inspirational speech for your kids, for your coworkers, for anybody, Mark is your guy. Without a doubt. We just there's not enough positive stuff to say about what you've done that would do you any justice, and we really appreciate what you've done.
Oh, guys, thank you so much for having me on your show. You guys do a great job, and I look forward to coming back again.
Thanks, Mark. We appreciate it. We'll let you go off of here, and we will shoot you an email once it's over and touch base with you again. But again, we thank you very much.
All right, guys. Take care. God bless.
You too. Well, I don't know about you, but that was absolutely ridiculous.
That was fantastic. Couldn't have went better, other than the echo that we had. But
yeah, I threw into the chat. I let the chat know that we were aware of the echo. This is what happens sometimes when you're doing an interview and you have a guest conversation come on to talk. It's sometimes their computer or whatever that. It's technology, and Mark was talking about these things, these phones, and by golly, sometimes they're not our friends. This is why he had the earbuds in. It was the first time he'd ever wore earbuds for
as soon as they died. As soon as they died, there come the echo.
Yeah, and it's funny because my mom actually sent a text, and she's like, "You and Ace are echoing."
No.
Yeah, and No, I don't hear it now, of course, but I appreciate everybody in the chat. We're going to keep the show going. We've got plenty of stuff to talk about. So if you're watching, just keep going because we're here. We had scheduled the time with Mark, and we scheduled about 30 minutes, and I think we went about 35 or so. This is how things go, and we don't always get an hour with somebody or an hour and a half or whatever. He's a busy man. So we are extremely thankful for that 35 minutes that he was able to give us. Yeah, wow.
Well, like you said, though, we did cover a lot of ground. He said we would, and we did. So easily could have talked an hour. Easily.
Oh, without a doubt. We could have spent more time talking wrestling. Everybody knows that Mark was, or if you don't know, Mark was married to another character from the WWF back in the day. Him and Sable, that character, they were actually a married couple back in the day. So yeah, there's so much more that could be touched on for both subjects. But we had a big Friday last week, and Wes is already jumping in, asking who put on the best show of the bands you guys saw last week. But before we answer that, we'll let everybody know who we went and seen, where we went and seen them, who we met, because we have a new friend who decided to take a selfie of himself. So we'll mention Todd. Hello, Todd. I hope you're listening or watching or something. I'll let you just go over who we all seen.
Well, and this is the first concert you and I have went to together.
Yeah, it's really because I just needed a drink.
So originally it was going to be Steelheart, Jack Russell's Great White, as it's legally called now.
Right.
And then Firehouse, and headlining would be Winger. And this was leading up to us when we interviewed Emelianenko from Steelheart. and we talked about that with him, and he was very enthusiastic about us maybe meeting with him at the show, which we were like, great,
Yeah.
we'd love to meet with you at the show. And then Melienko, just a couple of weeks ago, ran into a health scare. So, of course, they had to scramble to find a replacement for Steelheart, and we got Nelson. So, on the surface, that sounds maybe not what you think it should be, like, Nelson. But you and I went, and we went with a mutual friend, and they played their little set, and we were all very impressed with Nelson by the
Yeah.
end of that.
Yeah. I think we all kind of turned and looked at each other like, holy crap.
Like, wow.
Because you hear bands, I won't use any of them in particular, Motley Crue, where you hear the singer, lead singer, who may or may not sound like he did back in the day. Has Nelson changed? Absolutely. But I think they are sounding almost even better than they did back in the day.
Well, we got there early. So we were there almost 2 hours early, I think. And when we got there, they were doing their sound check. And so we got to see the sound check, and their harmonies in that were phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Yeah, and they said, "Yeah, we'll see you guys in a couple hours." Wes said he can't believe that we withstood the heat and wore black T-shirts. Much respect. Probably one of the hottest days in the month of July, and it sucked.
Yeah, it did.
But
It
we had
did.
to represent. We had to represent the podcast, and
Right.
we we got there. This was at the Mill in Terre Haute, Indiana. If you've never been, highly recommend you go. What a facility! What a place! Thought it was really neat the way they've got everything lined up. There are no seats. Okay, it's
Yep.
it's not all lawn, but yet it is all lawn. They have three sections basically. They have a VIP pit, and that is standing room only. Not for chairs, not for lawn chairs. They have the VIP section, which is where we were because we're old and we need to sit sometimes.
The
We
whole
took
time.
or the whole time. We took our chairs. You, me, and our friend the sheriff, as we call him, and the back area is a lawn like you would have at any amphitheater. Blankets, chairs, whatever. What an amazing, amazing facility. I'm actually looking forward to going to the mill again. Hopefully around I don't know, the 20th of August, and hopefully get to see Mark McKay. But
Right. We haven't confirmed that, though, have we?
no, no, not at all, not yet. But let's see. You just got shamed by someone for not saying anything because you were about an hour away from the person when you were at the concert.
We had these tickets a long time ago.
We did.
A long time ago.
Now to get back,
You were talking about the facility, though. I don't do concessions a lot because they're expensive. But these concessions weren't terrible at all,
no,
and the food was pretty good. Concessions, the prices were reasonable. My T-shirt was reasonable.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, I was pretty happy with that. The only thing they need a giant tarp or pavilion or something over that VIP section.
or better yet, we just don't go when it's 180 degrees in July.
Well, there is that.
Yeah,
There is that.
you're talking about the concessions. They had it separated pretty good. You've got your merchandise, T-shirts, CDs, whatever, and then you had four or five probably drink lines to get your refreshing adult beverages or your water or whatever. And then at the very end is where you would get the food. I never once saw that line get outrageous to where it was, people just waiting and waiting and waiting.
Oh,
It moved like crazy. Um, to get back to Wes's question about who put on the best show of the bands we saw, I think we may all have differing opinions, maybe not. I'm going to start with for me, the least favorite for me was Jack Russell.
well, and we need to make sure we're careful because
Right.
just out of respect for Jack Russell, who truly is one of the more amazing voices.
Oh, an icon.
In rock. But I'm not sure how old he is now. But his health has not been good for about 10 years or so.
Right.
They had to help him to the stage with two guys on either side. We
I
saw
would
that.
assist. I don't know if I'd say help. They assisted him.
Right, they assisted him. He got up there, he was fine, but his voice is not quite what it used to be. I don't think it's even close vocally. I couldn't figure out who he brought out on stage, the American Idol guy. I can't remember his name, but he
Oh,
brought him out for one song. I thought he was there to hit all the high notes and save all your love, but that was it.
Nate Peck.
Okay, but that was all he did. He did the one tune. Now Jack Russell's band, stellar,
Woo.
tight. I don't know. I don't know if Jack just wants to keep doing it. I don't know if he needs the money. I don't know, but it sounded like a bar band, a really good bar band with a bar vocalist.
But as you pointed out, a good one. We're talking classic Great White tunes.
Sure.
That he's playing. Of course, Once Bitten, Twice Shy. Excuse me, I just burped into there. That was great.
Well,
It was still. Make sure I didn't get anything on there. Great job though. Next, I would go Firehouse.
Now I enjoyed Firehouse, and I think that's where you and I have a differing opinion.
Oh no, I enjoyed them.
Because CJ Snare comes out, and he's the original singer for Firehouse. I think they had 3. You said 2. I think their drummer's original as well.
Okay.
Which is pretty good these days. But CJ Snare, who I think is 63 years old, comes out looking like he's 33. He's not hitting every high note, but he's hitting ones when he wants to.
That man, 63 years old, got less gray than both of us.
Exactly. He looked amazing. And moving like he did. Did you see some of the little spins he did with the microphone and moving side to side? And, he looked like a rock star. It was amazing. I thought he sounded, for live, he sounded really good. It's a live show. You'll have a little crack here and there. But
oh, yeah.
I think you said something about him trying too hard. He was pushing it. He really was pushing.
But at the same time, I don't blame him.
No, those songs demand it.
Yeah, no kidding. And they were billed third. They were right behind Winger, the headliner. So they rocked it. Obviously, if they weren't, then people wouldn't care. But they played all the good tunes, all the ones that you remember from radio from that album. They were good. I just, in my list, I would have put them third on my favorite for the night.
Right, because Nelson impressed you so much.
Oh yeah, I put them at number 2.
Right.
Nelson did phenomenal. They sang all of their normal stuff that you would expect. Even talked about new music getting ready to come out, which I was shocked. I didn't know they were actually writing new material. But they sounded fantastic.
Yeah, they did. They truly did, and their band was really good. The part about new music intrigues me because it gets me thinking about, and you too, about who can we get on the show? know
exactly.
So,
but Nelson was by far much better than I anticipated. Only because, like you said when you started talking about how they replaced Steelheart, that's not what you expect when you hear Winger, Firehouse, Great White, and Nelson.
Right.
But man, they rocked it. And if you're not following them on social media, I highly recommend it because they are very, very active.
They are.
But wow. That's really all I can say. And I've not been wowed by a concert in a while.
And there were people in front of us that they were singing every song. They knew every word. It was a short set still, but I don't know every word to every Nelson song that they played. I know 3 songs.
Oh, it was like 3 words or 3 songs.
No, I talk for a living, kind of. So
Yeah.
I talk once a week.
The cool thing, I don't know if you've been doing this, but I have. But my playlist after the concert has been those four bands, as I've just
Oh,
got going
yeah,
through, and I was only disappointed, and we're gonna get to Winger now, but Winger played great, all four original members. Um, they didn't play one song that I really
you,
wanted them to play.
you want to hear Hungry?
Yeah,
Yeah, he didn't play Hungry.
Red
It,
Beach kicks ass on that song.
yeah, Red Beach kicked ass all night.
Whew, yeah,
Well, it's five members because they have another guitar player.
or yeah,
Yeah, um, who I don't know his name at the moment, but yeah, they impressed the heck out of me. But did you notice? And I've never done this. I go to setlistfm.com all the time, looking up set lists and things like that.
right.
No one had done the one for our show, the one we went to. So I did it, and that was the first one. And what I noticed, um, we were shorted about three songs
Really,
from other sets, and I'm not sure why. They did they go over time? It was 11:15 when we finished.
I don't know if there's a noise restriction in Vigo County, Terre Haute.
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know, and I wondered that.
I will tell you what I suspect, and I don't think anybody from any of the bands would ever admit this if it was true. Um, I don't know if it's because of the median age of the crowd, but when Winger was playing, I noticed there was a lot of people leaving.
They were. You're right.
But I will put this out there right now. I do not believe for a second that they were leaving because of the way Winger sounded,
No, no,
because
I
they
don't think so.
sounded great. Kip, just like, I'd say the same thing about Michael Sweet. Michael Sweet with Striper, he can't hit those old school high notes. Anybody that's listened to Winger since, the 80s knows that some of those songs have very high notes.
They are good. They are so high.
Yeah, but Kip sounded good.
He
He
did.
wasn't he wasn't, he didn't sound like some of the other bands, and I won't mention it again. Vince Neil, he sounded good, so I don't think that was the case. But it makes me wonder if noticing people leaving kind of tick you off, and you're like, "Thanks, guys, appreciate it. Y'all have a good night. We'll come back and see you again, Terre Haute. Woo!"
Right.
Keep
I think they were playing State of Emergency on some sets. They were playing Hungry
oh,
on every show but ours. And there were like two others. Junkyard Dog from Pull.
okay.
That was on every other set list.
Wow.
Yeah, so at least three and maybe four. And you may be right. Maybe they were seeing some people kind of, cutting out halfway through trying to beat the crowd. But you know what? It wasn't that hard to get out of that place.
No.
It wasn't that hard at all.
Here's another thing. Was Kip doing a nice thing? Because he knows how hot it was. He knows
Yeah,
how long that crowd had been out there. Seeing people leave, maybe they're getting hot. Maybe, who knows? And we may never know why it was done. But I'm very curious as to whether or not they cut it short because of time restrictions. I may reach out to the mill and
yeah,
and see if I can't find out. Just because I'm curious. I would love to know. Um,
right.
all in all, would I go see all four bands again? In a heartbeat. So if they're around your area, go see them. I know Winger is with Cinderella and John Corabi for a few shows too.
Right.
But if you get a chance to go see Winger or any of them, just go.
Well, in Tom Kiefer's show, I hear nothing bad about how his show is. It's amazing. And if you want to hear classic Cinderella, that's where you got to go. You got to see Tom Kiefer. And we've had Karabi on the show, and we know what he covers. He's going to cover some of the Motley Crue. He's going to cover some of the Dead Daisies. Some of the Union stuff. So that would be a great bill too to go to. And I know you noticed this when we were watching, but this was every band, no tracks, no bullshit instrumentals, no bullshit backing vocals. Everything was live, and everybody that had a mic was singing. So I was blown away. That I pick up on these little things like that maybe, but the backup vocals for Winger
Yeah.
were just stellar. Like and they were trading off stuff here and there. They do that sometimes in bands to give the lead singer a break because you're advanced in age, so
Sure.
you'll sing a little part and they sing a little part and hit the higher notes for you maybe. And I know David Coverdale does that with Whitesnake. He's got two guys in that band that can really hit the high ones, and he didn't have
Exactly.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When you see Reb Beach running around Kip to get to his microphone to sing his part,
yeah,
you know it's live.
right. And again, Kip was very active, much like CJ Snare. He was running
Sure.
around all across the stage. And I mean, they looked like rock stars, and they sounded phenomenal.
Yeah. The
Phenomenal.
build itself had some issues with their soundboard,
A
especially
little
when
bit.
Nelson was on. We
Yeah.
couldn't hear, one of the guys, but they worked on it and got it fixed. But my gosh, what a phenomenal show all the way around.
Uh,
Uh,
it was Matthew we couldn't hear,
yeah.
uh, who was doing the harmonies because Gunner sings most of the songs. But
Well, Wes is going to be sure to ask Reb Beach the next time he gives him guitar lessons. So
okay, okay.
Lou jumped into the chat. He was late to the party. Lou, if you get a chance, rewatch this because if you're this late, then you missed the interview with Marc Mero. Please be sure to watch that because it's very inspirational, very good. And he is with Mike Beatty in Grand Haven for the CG Fest. Anybody that doesn't know what that is, Grand Haven, Michigan. This is the time of the year for the Coast Guard Festival, of which I am a veteran of, the Coast Guard. They have a huge festival up in Grand Haven, Michigan. Awesome time. The Coast Guard's birthday is actually August 4th, just a couple days away. So it's fitting that he's in Grand Haven with a buddy of mine, also Mike Beatty.
Do all of you gather in like a big tent and watch The Guardian to celebrate?
Well, this is the last show that Ace is going to be on. I apologize. He didn't get a chance to say a proper goodbye. No, damn it, we do not.
And is Kathy in the chat at all?
Yes, Kathy is. Kathy is. She's
It-
been
it-
she's been commenting like crazy. She's mad at you because you didn't get her a Nelson T-shirt or an
right.
autographed photo for her wall. She would have been in the pit, even though somebody would have had to have held her up.
Right.
She's going to rewatch this again later because she missed the first 20 minutes of the show. Kathy, yes, you must rewatch it.
She gave me 10 kinds of hell because I didn't record the whole Nelson set. Like, I didn't know you liked Nelson that much. I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know,
How are we
I,
supposed to know?
I sent her 30 seconds of a song, and she's like, "That's it."
Well, you kind of want to watch it yourself instead of just standing there with your device.
Oh, she knows if I'd known, I would have recorded the whole thing, but
Yeah,
I
for sure.
I really didn't.
But what a great show! What a great time! Um, Ended up being almost a 2-hour drive for us getting up there, but man, so good, so good. I'm still stoked about it, and it was almost a week ago.
It was hot as balls where we were at, right?
Yes.
The next night, we had a mutual friend that went to the show in Kentucky, and it was hot there as well. And then hail, rain, snow, sleet came. They had to cancel half the Firehouse set
And all of Winger, right?
and all of Winger. Yeah. So I don't know what weird weather anomaly that was, but you know, too bad they missed out.
He went to Kentucky.
Right.
I mean, that's enough of an anomaly there.
And it was the same type of venue too. It was an outdoor venue with no coverage, nothing. I didn't know those were a thing, but they are. I'm used to Deer Creek.
Right. Or whatever it's called now.
I don't care what it's called now. It's Deer
It'll
Creek.
always be Deer Creek. If
I
you're
need a
from
shirt.
Indiana, it will always be Deer Creek. Wow, it's funny. Everybody, I mean, just the Chat just got super quiet.
What the heck?
Except for Natalie, who just said testes. I don't know. I don't get it sometimes. But whatever. Anyway, we are working on some other stuff coming up for the show. It may have something to do with what we just saw last Friday, so we're waiting to see how that pans out for us. But we'll be back. We'll be back next week at our regular Tuesday, right?
Should be, yeah.
Okay. I think so. It's so hard to know anymore. My floor's getting done next Tuesday in the garage, so that
About
makes me
time.
happy. No kidding.
My feet were hurting Saturday night, from
Yeah.
standing on the terrible floor that you have.
I know, and it was wet, and there's bubbles everywhere. Whatever, it is what it is. I mean, what can you do? But we'll be back next Tuesday, regular Tuesday night, 7 p.m. If you have a question for us, be sure to send it to us, theweeklypourpodcast@gmail.com. Visit our socials. That's one thing I want to ask if everybody, when you see us post different things, if you would just double click it and like it. Push the thumbs up, whatever it is. Make sure you smash the thumbs up in the chat if you're in there. This kind of stuff, if you guys know how rhythms go with social media, it helps pump it out a little bit. So just double tap those, like them. You don't have to share them. If you feel so inclined, you can. But Kathy, thanks for jumping in. Kathy, of course, with Music and More Records. Jason, who's not been in it lately, so I'm going to have to get on to him. Jason at Bad Company Barbecue. By the way, I made burgers for Saturday. Use some of that their Bad Company barbecue seasoning. I'm not going to tell you which one because I can't remember which one. But we'll do that some other time. But I want to thank everybody for showing up. Once again, I want to thank Marc Mero for agreeing to jump in with us for a little while and talk about his history and, more importantly, what he's doing now. If you caught the end of the show or you haven't seen or heard what Marc Mero does, when we get this posted, which will be here shortly, rewatch, re-listen, listen to what he says. A great inspirational message that he does. If your school, if your corporation, if your town, whatever is looking for somebody, jump in and get Marc Mero. We will have all of his socials on the description for the podcast on all platforms. So jump in there and take a look. But hey, we'll be back next Tuesday, which is only 5-6 days away. And Wes, for the third time tonight, or second, we just need to know what TBT stands for. On that note, everyone have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.